In the automotive world, good design is usually reserved for premium brands, and here we are driving the 2024 Prius that promises to be both stylish and efficient. So we're going to put it to the test. What's it like? Buckle up, my friends. Let's go for a drive. I'm your host, Brian Makse, racer, lover of driving fast, fun things, and on this channel, you get reviews for drivers from drivers. Now, a few months ago, we did drive the Prius Prime, and that's a little bit different. It's a plug-in hybrid, and it's a different thing than this Prius. This XLE all-wheel drive is kind of your typical all-wheel drive Prius. It's definitely more of a volume model than the Prime, that's for sure. And before we get into what this is like to drive, let's have a look at it in a little more depth. With any of the previous generation Priuses, they kind of used to be the equivalent of the person who brought salad to a barbecue, but not anymore. Attractive styling aside, this uses the expected Prius mechanical recipe. Of course, it's a hybrid. It's a Prius. The power unit up front is a 2-liter 4-cylinder with an electric motor, and at the back there is an electric motor at the rear axle. Combined, everything makes 196 horsepower. Transmission is a CVT. Steering is electrically assisted, of course. Suspension uses McPherson struts at the front, multi-link at the rear, conventional dampers, certainly at this price point, disc brakes all around, and of course there is regenerative braking going on because this is a hybrid. Wheels and tires are 17s or 19s, depending on your trim level choice. There is no onboard spare tire for those who are interested, and curb weight of this XLE all-wheel drive is a little shy of 3,300 pounds. Did you know that about 80% of you are not subscribed? Yes, it's true. I checked the data and 80% of you are not subscribed. So if you enjoy the content on this channel, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button while you're at it. Be sure to like this video and share it. And if you don't mind, drop by our merch store. There's lots of great stuff for driving enthusiasts like us, including our very popular line of Save the Manuals merch. Now back to your regularly scheduled episode. The driver interface is an odd mix of things that I love and things I don't really like. What I love about the seating position is that you're nice and low to the floor in the chassis, and that's the way it should be in any car, not necessarily a truck, but I love sitting lower in the chassis. And then I've got this decent relationship to the pedals, but when it comes to the steering wheel, we're somewhat compromised here, and it has to do with this instrument cluster. And what I find is the way this car is set up, it's dictating my seating position. What I've got is a steering wheel position that's a little lower than optimal for me. For me, it should be about here, and what that does is it absolutely blocks the speedometer and the majority of the information available on this instrument cluster. It just does not. This is, I mean, I could do that. None of this works. Like, none of this works except where I want to be, which is right here. And then I can't see the speedometer. This just doesn't work for me. So I've got to drop it a little bit so I can see the important bits of information, like the speed and speed limit. And since we like using the throttle on this channel, it's pretty easy to go above the speed limit, and we don't want to do that because we don't need any more speeding tickets. After that, I do have to marvel at the small diameter steering wheel. I actually really enjoy the shape and size of it. The secondary controls on the steering wheel are typical Toyota. They're very logical, and if you're familiar with Toyota ergonomics, you'll be very happy here. The infotainment system is modern Toyota as well. Climate controls, all very straightforward. There's not much of a learning curve here to worry about. Another small annoyance for me is that we have to switch on the auto hold function every time we start the Prius, so it doesn't stay on like some other cars do. So every time you get in the car, and like I do, I'm driving in the city, I like the auto hold function because I'm sitting at traffic lights like I'm doing right now all the time. This style shifter is pretty cool. I really dig it, and I think it was influenced from the LC500's design. I think that's where we first saw it in the Toyota or Lexus range, and I'm glad they've implemented it here because it's very straightforward and logical and works very well. A highlight of this cabin is all of the storage space. So lots of space for water bottles and stuff, whether you've got your phone. Of course, you can connect to this car wired or wirelessly, so it's very easy to deal with in terms of your personal tech. And I just use this on Apple CarPlay and it works just fine for me. Plus, inside the cabin, there's a decent amount of space here in the front row. I can fit comfortably behind myself in the seating position in the second row, and there's a decent amount of space under the hatch. I've had a fair bit of stuff under the hatch, and this can carry a lot of cargo. My other minor quibble about this interior has to do with the angle of the windscreen and this large dash. And what I find is in bright sunlight, there's actually a lot of glare on the glass from the dashboard. I'd like this to be better resolved because I really don't like that much glare when I'm driving anything, and typically a black dashboard will mitigate that to a certain degree. But here, because the large surface area of the dashboard, the angle of the windscreen, glare is just completely unavoidable in bright sunlight. Well, a rocket ship this is not, but it's perhaps the quickest Prius yet. It'll do 0 to 60 in a couple of ticks over 7 seconds, and that's reasonably quick. You can certainly keep up with traffic with that kind of acceleration. But what we've got here is the standard Prius power unit, which is a gasoline motor combined with an electric motor for that hybrid power unit up front. At the back, because this is all-wheel drive, this Prius isn't all-wheel drive, it's an electric motor that drives the rear wheels, which is a pretty innovative thing. We do see this more and more with modern all-wheel drive vehicles, but overall it works pretty well. There are drive modes. There's comfort, sport, and eco, and they are definitely tuned to the conservative side of things. And I would say that the eco mode is so gentle it makes Mr. Rogers look like a UFC fighter. I do drive this in sport mode most often because it is the most responsive, but what we've got here is a CVT, and we know how those work. And just for fun, let's give this a try, shall we? At least it gives some sense of acceleration and revs climbing, but every once in a while it just sounds completely unnatural. The flip side of that is that this is an extremely efficient drivetrain, which we will get into later. This is one of the compromises you must make if you want a Prius, because the CVT is the only transmission in a Prius. In the real world, however, it does all of the necessary things, gets up to highway speeds quickly, and then once you're there, revs settle down and it's a fairly relaxed driving experience. It kind of works well in that regard, but by no stretch of the imagination is this performance oriented in any way. It is efficiency oriented, and that is exactly what you get with a Prius. I loathe to use the word smooth to describe the way any car drives, but if this Prius were any smoother, it would be selling vinyl jazz albums wearing a velvet suit. When I first laid eyes on this new Prius last year, I thought it was a stunner, and I think we can all agree that this is a very attractive looking four-door hatchback that is optimized for efficiency, and I really dig it in that regard. However, I had high hopes for its dynamics and that they may have made this a little buttoned down, but that's not quite the case. What we do have is a much improved Prius driving experience, and the ride and handling package is definitely in favor of a comfortable ride, that is for sure. So it does a fantastic job of absorbing bumps on the road and delivers a comfortable ride, but you don't have a lot of confidence to throw this in the corners and drive it at its limits. That is not what this is intended for, so definitely understand that this is not going to be a canyon carver that is also a massive fuel sipper. That's definitely not the case here. So we do have a fair bit of body roll, and then otherwise, we've got great brakes and decent steering. With hybrids and plug-in hybrids and electrics, we've got some regenerative braking going on, and one of the challenges for engineers is always to blend that mechanical actuation of the brakes as well as the regenerative braking, and it's a difficult thing to do, but Toyota's engineers have done a fantastic job of balancing those two things. So when you are into the brake pedal, you've got confidence. The brake pedal is very positive. Feel modulation is excellent. And in emergency situations, you've got a lot of confidence with this brake pedal to get this slowed down fairly quickly. Steering is light, which makes it easy to park, but when you're on the move, it's a little lighter than I would like. Not really that strong on center either. I mean, yeah, we can track straight and that sort of thing, but there's really not a lot of strong on center feel. But when you get into the corners, at least the steering is clear and direct, no trouble at all. I'd like a little bit more heft here, and I'd like it to be a little bit stronger on center. But overall, in terms of its handling and its dynamics, it's very much tuned to be a crowd pleaser and make it approachable for almost anyone to drive and enjoy a Prius. And by enjoy, I mean drive efficiently and be comfortable while you're doing it. How do you spec yours? Well, this XLE all-wheel drive trim is definitely not a bad choice. What you are looking at is Guardian Gray paint with the black interior.
As tested in the US, this is $32,795. In Canada, it's $37,650, and these prices are before freight and local taxes.
So when speccing your Prius, you do need to determine whether you do need all-wheel drive. Certainly in this part of the world, all-wheel drive would be helpful. And then your other consideration, your other primary consideration, is how many options and features do you want? Now, there is one upper trim level to this XLE, that is the Limited, so consider that. And otherwise, it's simply a matter of choosing your colors and being happy with your Prius. My verdict, well, the number one question that we need to answer here is how fuel efficient is it? And I have not been kind to the throttle at all. I've driven this in the city and on the freeway, and I can do no worse and no better than 40 miles per gallon. That is just incredible. I have to give a lot of credit to the engineers who developed this drivetrain. It is incredibly efficient no matter how I drive it. And for my Canadian friends, that's about 6 liters per 100 kilometers. With fuel efficiency this good, you'll forget what gas stations look like. Seriously, I haven't been to one in such a long time, I don't even remember. The bigger question here is about this new generation Prius, and given the way it looks, it is extremely stylish. You're no longer driving a penalty box. It is a stunner of a design, and I think it's going to change the way Priuses are perceived in the future. It's a good-looking thing. Still drives like a Prius, mind you, which is meant to appeal to a broad range of people who like efficiency over everything else when it comes to their car purchase. They say money can't buy happiness, but that's not the case with this Prius. If you buy a Prius, you might get all those things. It's quiet, reliable, efficient, and it doesn't argue with you. Sounds like happiness to me. Thanks for hanging out with me today and having a look at this 2024 Toyota Prius XLE all-wheel drive. Hope you liked this episode, and if you did, you're not new, you know what to do. Smash the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, like this, and as always, sharing is caring, so please share this with your friends, especially on Reddit, because on Reddit, they really need to see reviews for drivers from drivers. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And if you want to support the channel, please hit up our merch store. Links here, links below. Lots of great stuff for driving enthusiasts like us, including our very popular line of Save the Manuals merch. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you again next time. And remember, cars don't understeer by themselves, not even Toyota Priuses.